Gross, the Executive Vice President of CCRA, and this is our community meeting as part of the civic design review process for an exciting project that is being proposed in the 2300 block of Market Street on the south side. As many of you know, the projects over a certain size in Philadelphia are required to participate in the civic design review process. And that process contemplates that there will be a community meeting with the relevant RCO hosting, that's CCRA for this particular project. Tonight's agenda will be to have the developer present the project. Their architects are here. They will discuss the project, and during the presentation, if you have questions, you should use your chat feature and ask for and send a chat to CCRA, to the CCRA account. And when their presentation is done, which I assume will be 30 to 35 minutes, maybe a little more, then we will read each of the questions and get their answers. This session is being recorded and will be available to be seen on our website for at least a week. After this is done, I will write a report of this meeting and of the questions and answers and present it to the CDR when they have their meeting on this project. I know there's been some uncertainty of when that date is. Tony, do we have a date yet?
Yes, we believe it'll be April 6th.
April 6th will be the CDR meeting.
Yeah, we were hoping for March, but looks like April.
And it's usually in the afternoon, is that correct?
Yes.
It'll be available on the city website, and CCRA will also post the time of the meeting and the instructions to log in. It's a public meeting, and people are more than welcome to participate. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tony Ford, who is the lawyer, the zoning lawyer for the project, and he will introduce the developer and the architect and make the presentation jointly. Go ahead, Tony.
Great. Thank you very much, Rick, and thanks to everyone for showing up on this snowy day. It's nice to see some familiar faces. Billy, I'll ask you to put up, share your screen and put up the first rendering, and then I'll begin with a little bit of just the procedural and zoning background. And I'll be joined with Jonathan Staven, who is the owner's representative representing the developer of this project, and Chris Tantillo, who is the lead architect for the project, and he'll go through the design.
So it says the host is disabled participant screen sharing. I am unable to share my screen.
Try it now.
Okay. Oh, got it.
Okay, great. Wonderful. All right, so the properties we're talking about, I think you'll be familiar with. What you're seeing here is the corner of 23rd and Market Streets. The corner there at 2300 Market is what it was most recently the Culinary Institute. And then there are the two buildings directly west of that. The one with the white facade there, and then the next building to the west of that. And of course, if you keep going a little further, you get to the new Aramark headquarters building. Procedurally, what we're proposing to do with the zoning application is to take the three existing buildings, which are located on three separate zoning parcels, and combine all three parcels into one zoning site, and all three buildings into a single existing 4-story building. Our proposal then calls for adding a 10-story addition on top of that existing 4-story building for a total of 14 stories. And as you'll see, we're preserving the sort of historic character of the existing building and those facades, and then stepping back from those facades and The new addition is modern and yet has an industrial aesthetic that is very consistent with the existing buildings. The project calls for ground level retail and restaurants. And then of course the main entrance and lobby would be on the ground floor as well. Above that, within the existing building, there are a few floors of office space as well as 22 dwelling units. And then the new addition, the 10-story addition, will have 200 dwelling units in it. The parking, there's underground parking that is accessed from Ludlow Street behind the property. And that's where loading and trash storage is also accessed. And then the remainder of parking is being provided next door at the existing parking garage across Ludlow Street there. We're utilizing the mixed income housing zoning bonus as well as the underground parking zoning bonus. And the project was designed to be by right to comply with the zoning code. There were no refusals issued. It doesn't require any variance or special exception from the zoning board. But as Rick mentioned, because of the size and the number of units, it will go to civic design review, and that's scheduled for April 6th. That's the basic overview for the zoning for the project. I'd like to turn it over to Jonathan Staven, who I said before is the owner's representative, and then Jonathan will turn it over to our architect, who will walk you through the project briefly. Jonathan?
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Rick. Just wanted to give you a little bit of background on the site and the ownership entity that'll be undertaking the development. As most of you are probably aware, because you've been members of CCRA for quite a long time, this property was originally acquired by a partnership that involved PMC Property Group and Lupert Adler. It was acquired in different stages while PMC was developing the Aramark Building. Lupert Adler was a capital partner. The partnership also owned the parking garage that you can see on the left-hand side of the structure right there where they're pointing. What's transpired over the last several years, PMC Property Group has been bought out of the Aramark Building and all of the related real estate here. Lupert Adler Funds continues to own 2400 Market, the Aramark Building, and the parking garage at 12 South 23rd Street. The building that we're specifically discussing tonight, however, is owned by a different partnership. The main partners are Ira Lupert and Dean Adler, but this is not at the moment a fund asset, and it's not anticipated that it will be a fund asset, at least at this point. The fund does own the property at the third building here. There's a little bit more information than you probably need, but they're going to be contributing that for a small piece of it into the larger project for a piece of equity in it. But the majority of the project will be owned by private individuals, not the fund. I get into that only because that's an integral part of the lot consolidation process, which is ongoing. In order so that to preserve all the historic facades and yet not have to have 3 separate water services, 3 electrical services, the decision's been made to consolidate the lots into one parcel. So that is ongoing. Team is very excited to be undertaking this project. It was originally conceived as a hotel, but the pandemic came and has changed the world a bit. And the last thing that we decided that Philadelphia needs at the moment is another hotel project. And so they kind of shifted and have made this primarily an apartment project, but it also has a fair amount of retail on the ground floor to keep the streetscape active. It's one of the things that we know from the Aramark Building. There are a lot of people in this neighborhood now, or there will be again once the pandemic is over, that need places to eat and be served by retail. So the ground floor here is going to be retail. Dean Adler is also a bit of a history buff, and when he bought this building, found out it was the old Locomobile factory, the white building that you see there with the 3 bays. And in his enthusiasm, Dean went out and found a Locomobile, and you may see a picture of that later on in the presentation. but it'll actually probably be in the lobby of this apartment building and mixed use building. So we're very excited about the project. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Tantillo and Billy Wang from Tantillo Architecture. They have been working for several years now on this design, and it's been modified. And so we'll let them walk you through what we believe is the final project.
Thanks, Jonathan. Just a point of clarity, I know Tony had mentioned that the building's 14 stories tall. It's actually 13 stories tall. So I just wanted to get that on the record. So because the building, the Culinary School is 3 stories and the Hobb Building is 4 stories, the building's classified as 13 stories tall. So it's effectively 8 stories on top of the Hobb Building and 9 on top of Culinary, just because of the way the floors would work out there. So as was previously mentioned, the design seeks to really create this, what I would describe as kind of an urban loft-like quality to the overbuild. You can see that we pushed and pulled the building's facade back and forth along Market Street so that we don't end up with an overbearing continuous wall across Market Street. From Billy, do you want to go to the next slide? So this massing diagram begins to articulate exactly how the uses are deployed in the project. So in the red, let's talk about the retail for a moment. So the red is the retail. We placed the retail on the bookends of the project on either end, and also on the backside along Ludlow on the first ground level. They really activate the corner, and the main entrance for the apartment building is on in the Hobb Building at the entrance there. The office space is in blue, and that's on the upper floors of the Hobb Building and the townhouse building. By right, we're required to have 60 parking spaces. We're fulfilling that with 8 in the lower level, basement level of the Culinary School, and then we're also getting dedicated 52 spaces in the parking garage behind us. This diagram, you can see how the massing pushes and pulls across the facade with bays at the corner, pulling the stair volume in and really trying to articulate the building as much as possible. Next image. This is the plan of the lower level. So the building, as you folks may know, Ludlow Street is lower by almost an entire story than Market Street. So as you're going from east to west along Ludlow Street, it's descending. So we have our loading on the backside of Ludlow, nothing on Market Street nor 23rd Street. The Culinary School in yellow is our dedicated parking area. And then loading and service occurs at the townhouse and also at the Hobb Building, the middle building. We also have some additional loading for trash and other services for tenants moving in and out in that middle bay, as Billy's showing. Next slide. So this is the ground level or first floor of the building. So you can see how you enter the lobby for the apartments in purple, and purple services for the apartment services are in purple. The retail on the left-hand side, you can see, is the townhouse. It takes the whole level of the townhouse and then wraps around the backside of the middle building, with office entry where the existing culinary entry currently exists. And then, like I mentioned before, retail on the corner of 23rd. You can see the new street trees. We're required to have 7 street trees, so we'll be installing street trees along Market Street. Also, as part of the design, we're proposing to have a living green wall that wraps around the 2 sides of the culinary building, which you saw in the previous rendering, and that would be with English ivy, which is an evergreen ivy, so it would be green year-round. Next slide. The image of some of the materiality for the project. So as mentioned before, in the upper right-hand corner, the existing Hobb terracotta panels and the brick remains. The new glass and brick, I'm sorry, the new glass and metal facade. It's kind of an imagery of that. We're taking some cues from our neighbor, the Aramark Building to to the west and bringing in that simulated wood grain wood paneling to as a third contrasting material. The living wall, as you saw in the previous renderings, once again, kind of a snip of that. And then other areas, the back of the building has stucco on it, existing stucco. And then in other areas where we're adding some additional areas of a new building below the overbuild, but still above the existing, will be covered with stucco as well. And one more view, we modeled in the Morgan Lewis building to the left to give some sense for how the scale of the proposed buildings are going to work together. So this is effectively a view from the Pico building, if you will. Tony?
So Rick, I think that's, our presentation. We wanted to keep it brief for everyone, but certainly we are going to stick around to answer everyone's questions, and we'll be here as long as necessary to answer any questions folks may have.
So let me, thanks Tony and Chris and Jonathan. Let me make a couple of comments. For those of you who are aware of our process, CCRA is in negotiations with the developer over a community benefits agreement. While not required, because this is a matter of right project, I am pleased to report that the developer has reacted positively to the proposal to have a community benefits agreement, and that is under negotiation. Our last communication would indicate that there isn't a lot of distance to travel to get that done. We hope that that agreement is adopted by the CCRA board at our March meeting, the second Tuesday in March, and afterwards will be posted online as well. Substantial issues in that which are relevant to this conversation involve loading and traffic, which they've already referred to, which will be principally behind the building, down 23rd, and then across the street there. And we're looking at whether we can take advantage of some two-way street alterations and keep traffic moving along Chestnut instead of closer into the neighborhood along Locust. For those of you who know, 24th Street goes underneath Chestnut, and the first time you could go east from a truck or a delivery van and you're going down 24th would be on Locust. And our suggestion is to try and make the cross streets there more two ways, at least one of them two ways, so that we can keep as much traffic on Chestnut rather than moving closer into the neighborhood. The developer has agreed to comfortable compliance with construction times, utility emergencies and the like. And significantly, we are in useful discussions about minority employment and minority and women-owned purchasing, something that CCRA makes a cornerstone of our community benefits agreement. And I'm pleased to say that we believe the developer and we see very closely eye to eye on these kinds of questions. And the process has been quick, but very satisfactory. Some of the people involved on both sides know each other. And I will also say that the CCRA board, who had this presentation, reacted favorably to the building appearance and massing and other issues associated with it. Having said that, are there any questions, Travis, that you've received from any public members who would like to have them asked now?
Sure. First one, will the slides be available after this meeting?
Chris, did we provide this? I think we provided to CCRA our larger slide deck, which is what was provided to the Civic Design Review Committee.
But we can send this along as well.
Well, if you have no objection, CCRA will post on our website the deck you sent us, which was the CDR presentation, and it will be available for anybody to see. Is that okay?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
that's what CDR will be publishing on their website as well, so that's fine.
So we'll make that available in the next few days.
Great.
Are there any commercial tenants identified?
I think that would be for Jonathan. I don't believe there are, but Jonathan?
There are not specific tenants identified as of yet. We've had ongoing conversations with several well-known restaurateurs in Philadelphia. We also are having a conversation with a co-working office group that currently has off-site that's currently in the Aramark Building for some expansion space for them. So those are the two pieces of information I have at this point that I could give you about that.
And I guess that leads to the next question, Jonathan. When do you expect that the building will be complete? If everything goes as hoped?
If everything goes as hoped, the project should be done within 24 months. I think that's fair, Chris.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right.
Travis?
All right, the next one's more of a statement. Since Ludlow runs west, I implore you to seek streets and council approval to change 2300 Ronstadt Street to runway east. This would elevate trucks to drive through CCRA's southern portion.
So the issue with that, it becomes a little more complicated, and this is this issue has been addressed and been worked at for a while because of the Aramark Building. What happens is it's just not a matter of changing the direction of Randstead Street. We also have to deal with that section, that one block of 24th Street. So right now, 24th Street only runs south. So I'm sorry, there was a discussion previously about changing the direction of Ludlow Street. So if we were going to change the direction of Ludlow Street, we would have also had to change the direction of the block of 24th Street right there. So we have eliminated that as a possibility. So talking about Randstead perhaps being a two-way street, that would obviate the need to change the direction of 24th. That's probably more doable. It becomes, we have to look a little bit closer at, if we change directions of streets here, the turning radiuses for trucks and things like that. But we're all in agreement that it's better to have truck traffic go to 23rd Street rather than have to continue down 24th all the way to, Locust, actually, I think is the first time you could turn east.
Jonathan, if Randstead were two ways, why would you need to take any action on 24th?
We wouldn't.
You wouldn't. A truck leaving Ludlow from the building would come down a block and then could go east on Randstead and south on 23rd and east on Chestnut.
Correct.
And that's something we're all working on, and CCRA is supportive of and would work with streets if the developer asked us to do, for the reasons that we talked about, which is to keep heavier traffic at the north end of the neighborhood instead of having it go to Locust and then around Rittenhouse Square, which would be more congested. Travis?
Okay. What is the mixed bonus for?
Mixed income housing bonus is, zoning bonus that lets you have a little additional floor area ratio or density in the building. We would, in this case, rather than, the zoning code gives you two options. You can either provide the required number of mixed income housing units in the project itself, or you can make a donation to the housing trust fund. There's a calculation for how much that's done. And then the housing trust fund then builds affordable housing units where they're most needed using those funds. So that is the approach we would be taking.
All right. Please describe the rental units, 1, 2, or 3 bedroom. How many of each are planned?
Chris?
There's 222 apartments. Billy probably knows the mix better than I do. There's no 3 bedrooms. There's 1 and 2 bedrooms.
I can pull up the chart real quick, if that's cool.
Okay. All right,
Yeah, there's your mix.
So studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms.
Mhm.
Definitely mostly 1 bedroom.
Yeah.
I follow that up and ask Chris and Jonathan what the expected market is for these units, young professionals.
You know, it's going to be a luxury product. The units are on the larger side for what's being built now in the city, most of them. So the thought is that it could be, you know, kind of a work from home type of environment, and would lend nicely to some of the offsite being in the building, where if people wanted to get out of their apartment and go down to a desk at offsite, they could do that. But it's, you know, it's just kind of, it's going to be your typical center city resident mix. It's not geared towards students. I wouldn't call it an entry level building. That's about it.
will the Market Street pavement be replaced?
So I think the question is probably about the sidewalk rather than the street pavement. Market Street is being completely redone by the state, I believe, is doing Market Street.
Yeah.
We are going to lower we've been in conversations with PennDOT about the sidewalk elevations. And as you can see, reflected in Chris Tantillo's rendering, is a sidewalk that's at grade pretty much, which is going to require, you know, right now the sidewalks there have a very steep, you know, angle. I bet it's at least a 45-degree angle down to the road. So that's going to be eliminated. We're going to drop the sidewalk. Originally, they were going to bring the bridge up to the sidewalk, but we were happy to have the sidewalk come down because the buildings originally were built at, you know, a much lower level. So it's all working out. That'll provide a much more normal sidewalk pedestrian experience than currently exists.
And so Jonathan, the sidewalk will actually be repaved.
Oh, the whole thing is going to be.
Yeah, the whole sidewalk's being redone. Let me just add some more color to that. So when the Market Street Bridge overpass was done back in the day, it effectively screwed up the entrances into those buildings. So we're going to unscrew it up by dropping the sidewalks down and making the entrance into the Hobb building at level. Right now, it's about 24 inches above the inside space. Obviously, we can't move past our property in terms of sidewalk changes. So our precinct is from the west side of the townhouse on the right, all the way wrapping around to Ludlow Street.
Are there plans to use the rooftop space for residential or office participants?
Tony, do you want to touch that?
Right now, there's no, the plans don't show any outdoor roof deck or anything of that nature. If we down the road decided that's something that we wanted to add as an amenity, we would have to go back to zoning and file a new application for that, but it's not part of the current plans.
Chris, where is the current amenity floor? What floor in the building?
It's on 2 and 3. Yeah. Of the Culinary Building.
Okay, the 200 dwelling units are rental apartments, not condos or hotels, are correct? What are the size of the dwelling units? Number of bedrooms, baths? Will the building be dog friendly?
So
Public dog facilities on the property?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that last part.
Will there be any dog friendly areas on the property?
So I'll address the dog friendly stuff. So we have a dog wash as part of the project on the lower level. And I think maybe Jonathan, I'm sorry, Tony, if you could address the hotel component question.
Yeah, so right now the intention is for this to be a rental apartment building. So the 222 dwelling units are categorized as multifamily residential. But in order to keep options open, as Jonathan mentioned, originally there had been thought of a hotel. That is not feasible right now. But to keep options open, we are dual classifying all of the units for purposes of our zoning permit as both residential apartments and also as what the code calls visitor accommodations, which is a hotel type of a unit. Right now, there's not an intention to have any type of hotel as part of this. But if down the road we were to work out an agreement with one of these firms like Roost that does sort of manages floors of apartment buildings in a fashion like a hotel, it would allow us to do that. Both uses, residential and visitor accommodations, are by right in the district. So we dual classified them, but currently the intention is that it would be rental apartments. And in terms of the size of the units, Chris, I think that was another part of that question.
I think it showed up on that chart. Billy wants to pull it up again. Show that chart. We have another, yeah, you can see the square footage at the top. Thank you.
What is
So
the
that's the range.
cost for each unit?
I'm sorry, what was that question again?
What is the estimated cost of the units?
In terms of rental, Jonathan, I don't know if you have.
I don't think we actually haven't set the pricing yet for the project. If I was going to guess, I would tell you that it will start with in the $3 a square foot range. So your 1-bedroom units probably begin around $1,650, $1,700, and go up from there.
Have here a statement and a question. You've changed the intention of the building from hotel to apartments, quote, because of COVID. What makes you think there's a demand for 222 more rental units that do not appear to be large or spacious?
Well, the COVID has more to do with financing of a hotel project than it does with it's more of a financing issue rather than the occupancy
issue.
in the city right now is low. We couldn't go out and finance a hotel project right now. But you can still finance apartment projects. And our sense is that, I mean, prior to COVID, the occupancy rate of downtown apartments was in excess of 95%, even with all of the new supply that's been coming on. And so, our bet is that, as things, begin to normalize again, people will still want to live downtown in Philadelphia, and these units will be absorbed. There's also, with the exception of the 2300 JFK project, there hasn't been a tremendous amount of new apartment construction in this particular neighborhood. When you consider the amount of office construction that you have had in this and our, between the Morgan Lewis Tower and the Aramark Building, that's close to 1 million square feet. If not, I'm not sure the exact square footage of Morgan Lewis, but the Aramark Building is 600,000 square feet. So you have close to 1 million square feet of new office tenants in this neighborhood, not anywhere matched by apartment construction in that area.
That was my last question.
Well, okay. If there is no questions, then we will conclude the public meeting. As I said, it will be on the CCRA website for a period of time. It was recorded. And we will also post the notice and time and access for the CDR meeting on April the 6th. And we will post the plans on the CDR website in a day or so. And we will then post the CBA after it has been negotiated and adopted by the CCRA board. And all of that would be available for residents to check, for members to check out on our website and follow the progress of the building. Thank you, developer team, and thank you to our CCRA members and others in the public. This is a good way to get input and a safe way, given the COVID circumstances. We look forward to continuing to work with the developer, and while we miss the Culinary Institute, I'm sure there will be new replacements that will be equally delicious when they're built. Thank you, everybody. This concludes the meeting.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.